Hello, everyone. Welcome to our last episode in our DeKalb Unknown Black History Month video series. I am your host, Eric Williams, and I have my guest host with me, Ms. Amber McCorkle, and our very special guest, Dr. Joyce Morley. Thank you so much, Dr. Joyce Morley, for coming on to our video series. Can you introduce yourself and let our audience know a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Mr. Eric Williams, for having me in this series. I think it's awesome, especially during Black History Month. My name is Dr. Joyce Morley. I am an educator. I'm a psychotherapist. I am a board certified executive coach, and I've been doing these things for about 40 years or so. I am the mother of 3 adult daughters, and I have 4 grandchildren. I am on the DeKalb County School Board. I have into my 10th year. Can you believe it? I do quite a few things around the area of Atlanta, throughout the country, and also internationally. I have been an educator for over 40 years, as I said, and been doing many things in training and development. I'm a motivational speaker. I also do radio and TV. I do a series that comes on TV One called Fatal Attraction. So I'm really into the mystery and murder and mayhem. I love it, and being able to solve things and why people do the things that they do. I love people. I love working with our children. I'm an advocate for people. I'm a motivational speaker, as I said, and I've been doing these things quite some time. I consider myself an expert, and I am known as Dr. Joyce, also the Love Doctor.
So I'm going to have Ms. Amber ask some questions in regards to education and how you got into education here in DeKalb County.
Okay.
Thank you. Once again, my name is Amber McCorkle. I'm the Director of Education and Programs with the Clarkston Community Center. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Joyce, for being with us as we do this interview. One question as relates to your role in education. One, what sparked your interest in education, especially when it comes to our children that reside in DeKalb County?
Well, in order to be really on top of the things, it didn't start in DeKalb County. I'm not originally from DeKalb County, even though I've been here 31 years. My interest in education was piqued because I had family members. I come from a family of educators. I had sisters and brothers who were teachers, who were principals, and I have nieces and nephews, counselors, throughout the country. And I always wanted to be a teacher, but before that, I was aspiring to be an actress. And so teaching sort of fell in line with everything else that I was doing. And I wanted to always make sure that I could work with children and treat them the way that some of the great teachers I had treated me. But then on the other hand, the way that some of the teachers that I did have that weren't so great did not treat me as appropriately, to be able to make sure that I can espouse what I've taken and what I've gotten to other people, to children, so that they can not only be able to do what they need to do in the present, but making sure that they have a productive future. I started out as an elementary teacher in New York, and I was a curriculum specialist, a school counselor, a dean of students. I've taught at the post-secondary level. So I am a real educator. I'm not one of those that's on the school board and doing all these things and making decisions and have never been there. I've been practicing it, and I still do it, because even in the role as psychotherapist and in the role as executive coach, I make sure that the things that I'm doing is a teaching process, helping our people to be able to know what they need to do in order to be able to move forward and learn to help themselves. Children are very important. As I said, I have 3 daughters of my own, 4 grandchildren, and education was always very pertinent, very important in the house I grew up in. You had to read, you had to go to school. You didn't have a choice in the matter. You weren't asked anything. You were told what to do, and there was a model. Even though my mother only had an 8th grade education, my father didn't finish his education. 14 children. I'm the youngest of 14 children, and it was expected that you would get an education. So I was able to take that same belief and that same heritage and bring it into my own household. And so my children were reading with the flashlights under the covers at night when they were supposed to be in the bed. And I just pushed forth that education. I have 3 daughters. They all have their PhDs. They're all Spelman graduates, and they followed that because they saw what I was doing. And so I've always wanted to be able to help the children wherever I go. So in DeKalb County, it was no less. If I wasn't doing volunteer work before I became a DeKalb County School Board member, I was doing things to make sure that children actually had what they needed to have, because either we do something now or we're going to pay dearly later. Educate them and help to be a part of the process of educating them, knowing what it takes in order for them to have the knowledge. And we do know that people perish for the lack of knowledge. And we look at the banning, all the things that they're trying to do to keep our children from being educated, especially Black, brown, and indigenous people. All children, whether they're white, no matter what color they are, brown, Black, if indigenous, I want all children. But we have to pay a special attention to those children who have been disenfranchised, the poor, the ones who've taken their power away from them, never been empowered. So my whole focus has been, since I've been in DeKalb County, to be a part of that educational process. And part of being on the DeKalb County School Board is making sure that I have a voice for the voiceless, that I'm willing to speak up for those who don't know how to speak up, those who are afraid to speak up, and those who are not willing to speak up. So I think it's important that we have a way to come together. I want to be a part of that village concept. And as a board member, a taxpayer, a parent and grandparent, being a part of that educational village that helps to be able to bring our children from childhood to adulthood.
You made some very valid points, definitely, especially going back to your piece about just ensuring that all kids, regardless of their background, their race, have access to quality education, right? So my next question is, what role do you see yourself playing in ensuring that our kids have access to the resources that they need to compete with their peers in other counties, as well as just throughout the nation and the world, as well as ensuring that they are receiving an equitable education?
Well, I think one of the major things, we looked for equality at one particular time, Ms. McClurkin, and equality has never come about. And so now we use the word equitable, and sometimes we have to begin to understand and be able to define it. Are they actually receiving an equity education? It's a buzzword at this particular time. The major thing is making sure that our children have what they need to have. Educating the parents. One of the things I fought for since I've been on the DeKalb County School Board is to ensure that the parents of the children get an education. Those who don't have a high school diploma or a GED, that they can actually get it. And we've been able to do that. And I've been able to be a part of that, coming in and making sure that if it's funding, the so-called wraparound services, the psychological, emotional needs that our children have, the social needs, making sure that they're met, having a voice to say in the budget of what takes place. And I'm only limited in DeKalb County by being on that board, but beyond that, I have other accessibility, making sure that I speak with legislators, people who are making decisions that might not know a darn thing about education, but they're having a voice in it, having my voice to be heard. And as the late Congressman John Lewis once said, if you see something and it's not right, it's not fair, and it's not just, say something. So I'm not the silent partner sitting by, afraid to speak up and stand up. But not only do I speak up and stand up, I take it up, and I'm willing to do something to say, what can I do when I see a child that might be going in a different direction, to have a say? Can we come up with a plan to bring in people from the outside to be able to enhance what's going on the inside, or what's not going on in the inside, to have an impact on the poverty, making sure programs are there, being able to have a voice. And my vote, I only have one on the DeKalb County School Board, but making sure that my vote stands for the right of and the will of the people, the children. And if we can be able to work with everyone, I'm a systemic therapist, I'm a systems therapist, that it all is systemic. It comes from whatever is going on there. It's a systems approach. Marcus Garvey once said, you hurt the nose, the eye cries. So if the parents are empowered, then we can empower the children. If the children are empowered, then we can empower the educators. Everyone is in this together. So I want to make sure that there's funding, and that the funding is spent appropriately, because I think too many times in educational institutions there's funding, but it's not spent appropriately. That the community centers, such as the Clarkston community, other places, know of available funds and ways to be able to work together, that we come together and that we actually look at it as being a coalition and not a competition.
Yes, that's great. You talked about empowering parents and empowering the youth. How, for parents and youth that don't know where to go, how to be empowered, what does that look like? What are 2 steps that you think you could give to our audience that's listening to be empowered to go through the barriers that are set against us?
Well, I think one of the major steps, Mr. Williams, is believing and having faith that you are valuable. We say Black Lives Matter. You matter as an individual. As a parent, you have the right. And I think that to give yourself permission to stand up and speak up, it's not so much what you do as to how you do what you do when you do it. It's being able to ask questions. We don't have many of the answers we need because we don't ask the right questions. Don't ever be afraid to make an appointment, go to the school. I know in the COVID time, now we can't just go to the schools and do what needs to be. Ask the questions, know your child's teachers, know what's going on, know the principal, know the superintendent, get to ask the questions that need to be, and then be able to ask, call your school board member. Anyone can tell you, I've been on this board, this is my 10th year. And if you call me, I'm going to return your call. Emails might not be as great because we get so many, but it takes me a while to go through them. But if you call me, I believe that you're worthy enough, I need to get back to you. So you empower yourself by believing that you have the right to take a stand and a stance, to ask questions, know your child's educators, but know what they're being educated about. Ask some questions about where the money is being spent. Let your words and your knowledge be sent and known by when you go to the polls to vote, that you vote in the right people who are going to be on your school board, that you have a say as who's going to be your superintendent, that you ask questions, send your emails in. And then as far as the children are concerned, no matter how young you are, you still have a right to ask questions. We're here to help enhance you for your knowledge, to empower you. And it doesn't mean that you have to be rude or anything else like that, but it's asking questions. Ask your parents, and parents don't know. Have your parents to ask your teachers. Teachers don't know. Have them to go through, follow through, send emails sometimes, and get the email addresses. On the DeKalb County School Board, if you just click on the picture of every board member, you'll get the email address. And then if you don't know how to do that by yourself, rally together. There's much more power in numbers. Get together and get enough people together who are not afraid to stand up, speak up, and take up an issue or something that's going on. Be able to know what's going on. Don't let just people just sell you a bill of goods. And I always say to people, don't take any wooden nickels because they don't roll and they don't spin. Ask the right questions, know what needs to be done, and be able to say, here's what I need. Here's what I want. I'm not clear. And don't stop when you're not getting what you believe, what you need and you want. Go on a little further. Go to the community centers. Go to some of your other legislators and people around. And don't let them just sell you a bill of goods that's not worth anything. Your children are an investment. And again, if we don't educate now, we're going to pay dearly later. Have some say. You are the master and the ruler of your house. You are the parents or the surrogate parents that should be there. Your children need to be told what to do, not ask all the time. You can ask their opinion, but you have been given a charge by God to rear these children. We all have been given a charge by God to do what we need to do. And if they're not doing right, call them out. Speak out about it and be able to say, this is not what's really going on. I'm not pleased. Don't wait until the 11th hour to find out what's going on with your child's grades. Don't wait until he or she is failing a class. Check in. You're welcome. You're always welcome. You can call me at any time. My number, 404-599-9632, 404-599-9632, and I will return your call. You can email me. It may take a little longer. It's better to call me, and you'll get to me a lot faster. But don't be afraid, because guess what? You're just as important as anybody else. Parents, children, other stakeholders. Don't let anyone tell you anything and you just believe it. Ask the right questions. And if you're not getting the right answers, don't stop. Keep moving, keep fighting, never give up. Because if we don't have children that are educated, an uneducated family is an uneducated society. Uneducated society is a society that's not going anywhere. And remember, corporate education, compulsory education was not meant for children of color. And if you don't go after it and don't say something, go to the polls, let your feet take you to the polls so you can vote and ask the questions. Don't believe the hype all the time. Empower yourself, read, and be able to take from different perspectives. That's what's going on. Know whom to trust and whom not to. love your children, but children, you have to also love your parents. And children, you have the right to ask questions. It's how you ask them that makes a difference. And if you don't get any answers, go to your counselors, utilize your counselors, utilize the people that you have in the school building, your principals, your assistant principals. They're all important. And guess what? I want to say this one last thing. We look at educators, everyone who comes in contact with children are educators, the custodians, the bus drivers, the food service workers, the cafeteria workers, the secretaries, administrative assistants. So we don't need to look down on anybody unless we're helping to pull them up. So children, whenever you're in trouble, you have answers, that don't have answers, the questions that you need, go to some of these people and you'll be surprised, no matter what their role is, that they might be able to answer the question for you and be able to guide you. The counselor should have information about access to financial situations. We have a Office of Community, Family, Community Engagement. This is Marcia Coward. We help people with housing, any of those things like that, whatever's going on, homelessness. And so there are ways that you can be able to patch into the system, the DeKalb County School District. And I think one of the failures that we haven't done in a long time, we did a conference back in, I believe it's 2013 or 15, called Navigating the System. And we help parents and children to know where to go, how to go. And too many times it seems as if, they don't know because no one is telling them and no one is helping to teach them on how they need to do what they need to do and when they need to do it.
That was really inspiring. Just to hear you talk about that, especially when it comes to advocating. And like you said, the importance of empowering the parents and the students so that they know that they too can advocate on behalf of themselves. So with us, I guess, being in a time period where we see advocacy is major, not just within education, but across everything that impacts our quality of life. Would you mind giving an example or a story where you advocated on behalf of an issue and what the resolution or what the results were?
Miss Amber, that's a tough one because I have so many. The spectrum when I think about, well, I advocate for our children all the time, when it comes to them as far as suspensions are concerned. I advocate for our teachers and for the treatment and for them being paid. I was a part of the 2018 advocacy to make sure that our educators were paid what they were worth. And also to say that if we're an educational system, how are you not letting education count when you're looking at the pay scale? If you have someone coming in with a master's and a doctorate degree, how do you not let them be paid right? I've been fighting for, as long as I've been on this school board, for the school counselors, the social workers, and the psychologists who are being paid at a different level, and to get the back money that was taken away from them from 2012. That battle still continues because it seems of many times that if people don't have a vested personal interest, that they're not willing to take up and advocate for someone. But anytime you see someone not getting what they need to have in order for them to be able to move forward, if you see someone that's not able to move forward, if they can get up and move forward, it helps everyone. And so I advocate for people out here in the community. It doesn't have to be anyone that's in the DeKalb County School Board. I advocate for people around the world. I advocate for St. Jude's. I've been paying a monthly fee. I contribute to St. Jude's Children's Hospital in Memphis for over 20-something years because I advocate for children who are ill, children with cancer, and making sure that I speak up, getting with the legislators, getting on different forums and being on panels and speaking up and letting people know my thoughts, my beliefs, and standing for them when it seems as if everybody else is against them. Standing with the bus drivers in the DeKalb County School District when they were not being treated fairly. Standing with those and helping to empower them and helping them to find their own voice